Hello and welcome, everybody. This is Rish.
And that's Roland.
And today we are talking about a rant we had. This is not a cost of living crisis. And I do want to really start you going by reiterating this thing, what you said about the energy stuff in the US.
Well, we're causing a lot of our own problems these days. So, a bill was introduced in the California legislature, and by 2035, there will be no more new gasoline or petroleum vehicles sold in that state. And then about 5 days later, they asked people to stop charging their electric cars during peak hours because it was overloading the power grid. We're doing this to ourselves, guys. Like, we are making our own problems here. We really are.
It's it's really a thing. I mean, this is really. I have to use the word idiocy here. Yeah, I have to use the word idiocy here, and I am not against switching to electric cars. Okay, it's totally not. But number one, we don't have the infrastructure. We need as many charging points for these cars as we have filling stations right now. Yeah, you can't move from gasoline or petroleum engines to electric engines if you don't have the refill or the recharging point in place.
But
So
the definition of hypocrisy, case in point, is a diesel generator powering an electric carport. That's what they do in emergencies. When
don't get
there's a
me
big
started.
wreck on the road and everyone starts to, lose their battery, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
either hot and you need your AC, or else there could be health implications, or your electric battery starts to die in the
You know
cold
what
when
the big
there's a
problem
blizzard.
is with these
They
cars?
use a diesel generator to power electric charging stations.
But you see that the problem with this whole electric thing is, first of all, it is a jump from an engine that is burning something. Yeah, keep in mind something, to an engine that is not burning anything. Completely different kind of physics, completely different kind of infrastructure you need for that.
And
Um,
also generates a different kind of waste. We
yeah,
do not have a plan in place
we don't have a
to
plan
dispose
for
of these old
transition.
batteries.
Yeah, we don't even need a plan for talk about a plan for disposing of these cars or for up recycling what is coming out at the end of it. We don't have a plan for actually using them. Yeah, but what I was pointing at is, I don't know. I think it's 15 years ago when we started to mix ethanol, alcohol, into the petrol to fill our cars. And huge issues with modern engines that they can't take that. So it is really a thing. What I was going to say about the battery thing is, uh, don't nail me on it, but I think a guy named Becquerel invented modern batteries. And in principle, we haven't really developed battery technology to the same extent as we have developed petrol engines. And we haven't developed petrol engines very much at all. The
They
only
could
thing
be
we have
much more
done,
efficient.
they are exactly, we are much more efficient. But the first cars, the first mobility given to humankind other than horses, yeah, was electric. And I find it ironic. The first cars, the first motorcycles were electric, and now we want to go back to it without any kind of transition phase, essentially. So we have the same law across Europe. And talk about creating our own problems. If you think you don't have charging points in the US or in California, do you know how many charging points I have here in the United Kingdom in the city that I live in?
No clue.
2.
Don't you live in Edinburgh?
Yep.
Isn't that a major city?
It is a major city, 350,000 people, which is large for Europe. Yeah, I have to tell my American friends this is a large city by European standards. Yeah, so I have to go essentially to the airport to find a charging point. There's another one in apparently in a shopping center the other direction, but due to inner city traffic, it will take about the same time to go there. And it's, I think, 10, 15, if not 20 miles from where I actually live. So if I want to go somewhere, I have to travel 20 miles, charge my car, and then go somewhere. I mean,
I have a fun story for you, Roland. So this was about 8 years ago. I was working at a mine, and people showed up, as they do, to protest the destruction of the environment. And they showed up in typical fashion, mostly in Priuses, all, electric cars. They showed up to protest the mine because we were destroying the environment and they were saving it. I was working at a nickel mine. That's what makes the batteries.
yeah, it's one of the battery technologies. So, I mean, the irony is, I had a protest. I live close to the very close to the American consulate here. And literally, there is no week where there is not somebody protesting in front of the American consulate. Yeah. And first of all, the stuff people are protesting against or for. And I had a protest when this abortion law was passed by the Supreme Court.
No, actually, let me clarify. Technically, they revoked Roe versus Wade, which was the federal law that allowed abortion. Essentially, they punted it, football reference, American football, back to the states so that the states would decide individually their own abortion laws, state by state.
Which now that you are explaining how the issue goes, it's even more ironic. Yeah. So we have these protesters here. My daughter, 16 years old, is coming in, looks at me and says, I don't think any of these women, or whatever they feel like today, will have that problem of pregnancy. And no, I think one of the bigger YouTubers made a comment along this line saying that this is essentially during these BLM protests. One woman was arrested for throwing a Molotov cocktail against the police. She was arrested.
That's a crime.
Which is a massive crime. I don't know the statutes in the US, but basically you will go behind bars for a long time.
Well, yes, if you try to kill a member of law enforcement who is enforcing their duties, whether it be him or they, them,
position.
So you don't kill cops.
No, this is literally you have the right to peaceful protest. Yeah, peaceful. Emphasis.
Not to set someone on fire.
Yeah, that
they did that. They did that in the Middle Ages.
Yeah, no, the point I'm making is, and Tim Pool made that case. He said, this is the lady they arrested. This is her before going to college. And beautiful young woman. This is her after college. The difference couldn't be, I have no words when I saw these pictures in comparison. And Tim Pool simply was posing the question, what happened in between? And me being an educator, I refuse to say it's the universities or the colleges' responsibility that this happened. No. So especially in the land of the free, it is your own personal choice what you're doing. And you see, the really, this is the trajectory I wanted to go on with the cost of living thing as well. We are causing our own problems because we don't know. In our affluence, in our yeah, safe, convenient lifestyle. We don't know what the heck should we protest against. What the heck should we do with our time? And we have moved. When I look back, I'm really into history, and when I look back in the time 90s to today, we have moved the stuff we don't like, we don't want to do, to other countries to do them for us.
Outsourcing.
Without any thought of, yeah, what happens next. Going to your thing about energy. Now, essentially, we had the choice in Europe, or Germany specifically, we had the choice of buying our gas from you guys, yeah, shipped over the ocean, the sense in it aside, or buying it from Russia. All things equal, do I rather want to buy from an American who has essentially the same value system, belief system, and language than myself, or someone who has a very different value system, very different belief system? Yeah. Who do I want to do business with more? And we essentially boiled it down to, oh, it's more environmentally friendly, it's cheaper, it's this. And if we engage with the Russians, engage with the Chinese, they will see how much superior our value system is. Bullshit. It hasn't worked
That didn't
since
work.
the 1970s. So as much as I will be criticized by you or anyone in this world, but as long as we had the Berlin Wall, we knew which side is the good side and which side is the not so good side. Yeah. So walls, as a German, walls make things easier. It makes a lot of arguments obsolete. It makes a lot of arguments easier. And we can argue where that wall should be. But looking at the current trajectory of the world, what we Western people are worrying about after 20, 30 years of outsourcing the stuff we want to people that don't like us. We are now seeing that's a problem. And a lot of this cost of living crisis is, as you said, by our own doing. Why have we not thought about diversifying the supply chain, especially on the IT side? So a lot of people don't know that electronic components, loads of them, are made in the Philippines. The Philippines are culturally, socially much closer to the Western world than all of Asia. And the miracle story of Japan turning from a fascist imperialistic system into what they are today. Yeah, I'm not saying they are perfect, but moving from one end of the spectrum to something representing an average
within a generation or two. I mean, very quick change.
Look at Germany. I keep saying to my wife, the Germans had stupid bombed out of their empty heads. And when you look at pictures, if you want to see devastation, Google pictures Germany 1945. That's all you need to see in your life. And I know places that are much worse than that. I have been to places that are much worse. That is really, it is a difference between day and night. Even in the ruins of Germany, you had a modicum of economic safety. Yeah, you had a modicum of general societal safety. But there are places in this world where, and in civilized, what we call civilized countries, where you fight to survive the next day. You don't have a plan for, I'm going to university in 5 or 6 years. You are worried about your next meal. And we don't have to go too far we don't have to go to Africa. Yeah. We have places where people are struggling in Europe, not like you and me and cost of energy or general cost of living. We go to We go to places I have seen in China. Yeah, lucky enough, my wife is Chinese. I can travel to places outside the usual tourist spots that the government wants you to see. I have seen people living in ruins. I have seen people living in caves. Yeah. And at the same time, now going back to this trajectory, we are complaining about stuff that isn't even on the radar of these people.
Because
Another
we're
thing,
afforded that luxury.
yeah, they don't have the luxury to worry about these things. And
you don't have to go all the way to China. I mean, look at the devastation that happened in the Baltic states. Look at Kosovo, Serbia, Bosnia. I mean, just mass genocides. And these are things that you think of, typically of African nations or other places. No, it happens in Europe.
yep, it happens literally a flight away from where I live. And another thing, well, two examples. It's basically the same story, but somebody, I don't know, this is a story I have not verified, I have to tell you, but during our occupation or war in Afghanistan, to turn Afghanistan into a democratic Western country,
Failed.
which failed. And the reason why it failed is when people were going into Afghanistan to educate people, tell them about the miracles of Western consumer-based society, they came across these migrating tribes. Yeah. And essentially it can be summarized that the tribe that lived in a certain valley, they knew there was a valley next door. They knew the tribe that lived there, but they had no concept about Afghanistan being a country, being a state. Yeah. They had a concept of their own identity. They knew there is another tribe there. They are both competitors as well as collaborators. But
this thing, they were probably just well and happy with the way things were, content.
Well,
their needs were being met. There wasn't all this extra bullshit. There wasn't Facebook. They were happy.
Next step. This is actually
leave us alone.
Verified. This is a story I verified. At some point in the 20th century, a tribe of Aborigines came across one of the major cities in Australia. And they didn't know what it was. The people that lived in the city immediately, an uncivilized, untouched tribe, untouched by society, and they got into this thing and talking to that Aborigine tribe, family, whatever. These Aborigines had no idea that white people had been living in Australia for almost 400 years. And you see the horizon of people is at that stage, they're concerned with their own survival. They're not concerned about what is somebody else's pronoun. What is somebody else feeling about something somebody else did 200 years ago?
Or in every 4 years, do I have to worry about half of the people that were happy being pissed off because there's a change in leadership, the gas prices just going wherever they go, censorship on social media, is the loaf of bread going to cost me double because we voted for the wrong party? Or is everything going to get worse when we thought we were voting for the right party? And some people just get to live in a valley.
Yeah, I mean the innocence of it. Yeah, these people don't worry about these things. They have other worries that you and I don't have and won't have. I did this, and I love doing this. Is I keep asking my students, would you rather be the top 10% in a poor country, or would you rather be the bottom 10% of a rich country? rich and poor countries being defined as the top 10% or bottom 10% of countries in the world.
So like the US versus Haiti.
Something like that, yeah. So, and a large majority of people says, well, I want to be the top dog in a poor country.
No.
Because everybody, no, exactly.
No.
And it's not even close. It's not even close. On average, if you are top 10% in a poor country, you have available to you $6,000, $7,000. If you are the bottom rung in especially Western society, that's another fun part I want to say. If you are bottom 10% in the top 10% countries, you have minimum about $10,000 to yourself.
But you also have clean drinking water, a place to expel waste,
yeah,
relatively clean air conditions, relatively sanitary hospitals.
Yeah. So you can't monetize everything, obviously, but there's this thing. I showed people pictures of a very modern, very beautiful city and asked them, well, where is this? And everybody tells me, well, this is the States, this is Florida. And I said, no, this is Lagos, Nigeria. Then I show them a picture of basically ruins. And they are like, well, Eastern European war zone, Ukraine. I said, no, this is Detroit, city center. Yeah.
They've been having it pretty rough. And see, we in Flint, still with the water. Still with the water.
And literally Detroit, go 100 years, 120 years back. Detroit was one of the hotspots.
It was a flourishing metropolis.
Another fun fact. If you look not only at the G7, G8, G20, have you realized that most of these countries are actually very Western, especially when you measure it by GDP per person or income per person?
I'd be interested to see those numbers.
Well, when you look at it, and I just read the statistics yesterday. Apparently, the UK is the 5th richest country, or now 6th richest country in the world. We just got overtaken by India, the largest democracy in the world. Not saying perfect democracy, but much better than what's around in many other places. And when you look at average income of people, we are the 12th richest. So I looked this up during looking at cost of living crisis. I wanted to do a video about this myself months ago, when this whole debate about energy prices here in the UK started. And how is it possible that our energy companies are posting an increase of their record profits of the year before, and keep saying, well, if the government doesn't subsidize us, we go bankrupt. Well, if you need those subsidies, if you need the government to survive, then you are not fit for purpose. Then the government should take over. So
but see, you get into state-owned businesses and that rabbit hole goes pretty damn deep.
It does, you see, and this is what I'm afraid of. We are at a point where if we continue the path of privatization and private enterprise, there's lots of criticism to be raised. The other thing, what you are saying is, if we are increasing the reach of the government, it's also not a trajectory I want to go on. And I'm really wondering, well, what else is there? Yeah. So, and this is another thing that I wanted to raise with, wanted to discuss with you. Sorry, with all the stuff that's happening, we are going from crises to crises, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back, not only look back in history, but I take a step back and reflect on this. And I say, well, this is an opportunity for us as human beings, as a society, whether it's Western society by itself or a global society, to really look at how did we end up here? What the F word went wrong in the last 30, 50 years? And how do we fix that?
I would say politicalization, polarization, governments know that on their own they're not strong enough to overtake the populace. So the easiest way is turn half of the people against the other half of the people. And going back to the economy, I learned a recent fact. So the Belt and Road Initiative, you know, a lot of shady loans, but I also just heard that that there's over 5,000 private military contractors in China now. And I did not know this previously. And I always wondered, well, they're going into, they're trying to bring economic development for their own profit, but to benefit the locals as well. So how are the locals making money, and how is the Chinese government protecting its investment? Every single one of those over 5,000 private military contractors or companies has to be at least 51% owned by the PLA.
Yeah. Essentially, yes.
That sounds like a racket.
If you want to look further into this, and I found this out yesterday, there is literally a Chinese police station in Glasgow. And it's not marked as a police station. It is above a Chinese restaurant. And I am asking myself, why does the Scottish or the British government allow police force of another country without any agreement, without their knowledge, to police their own national they are policing other Chinese here. Yeah. And the main thing they are doing is try to persuade them to go back to China. There's another thing is I don't want to get into too many details, but through my network, I have connection with a lot of Chinese people that are here, that want to be here, that have a Western mindset. And 2 weeks ago, I heard that Chinese parents are being persuaded by the Chinese government to persuade their children who are studying here to come back to China because the COVID is so bad here. And I'm like,
wait, are we still doing COVID? Because we just jumped from one major issue to the next major news topic. All the while, governments across the globe are getting away with murder because we're so focused on whatever's just in front of you, in front of you, in front of you, in front of you.
Yeah, this is something. I mean, there's a pattern here. There's a pattern here. Is now you should worry about the energy prices. Don't watch what we are doing. Yeah. So
do y'all got monkeypox yet? We just rolled out the next one. We have monkeypox now.
We had monkeypox a couple of months ago, but
that one didn't get much traction. I guess it wasn't a good news story.
No. whether it was because people were like, oh, for Christ's sake, yeah, or that people were not really keen on monitoring the media anymore. So
maybe they're just sick of it.
I don't know what I should be afraid of. I watch media and then I look it up, and in most cases I'm deciding, well, that's not a problem for me. It's not a Roland problem.
Yeah, but what is a problem is whether you watch the media or not, all of a sudden you realize everything costs 10 to 20% more than it used to 2 years ago.
Not even 2 years ago.
But the companies are making record profits.
It is strange.
And it's not just oil and gas industry.
Not only energy
it's across the board.
Is one thing I track because we eat a lot of pasta. We eat a lot of noodles. And when we left,
noodles are great.
2016, noodles are awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
All hail noodles.
I like them Thai style, Japanese style, Italian style. They're all good. What's wrong? It's
So a
good.
normal pack of fusilli noodles, one of the most common types of noodles, Italian pasta, cost me 45 pence. That is 50 US cents, 55 US cents. Yeah. And that was
Okay.
2016. 45. Remember the number. When we came back, the price was 50 British pence. Yeah. So really, inflation. Okay, no problem. Just after a couple of weeks, we came back in July. And after a couple of weeks, the price went up to 70.
That's more than inflation.
That's way more than inflation. And guess what? I went to the shop a couple of days ago. 80 or 85. I don't remember. And
Question: did you buy them?
yes, I have to.
Supply, demand. The price is 85
Yeah.
because you will pay 85.
And why am I paid 85? Because I can afford it. I can afford. Without government intervention, we would have energy cost of £400 a month next year, early next year. Now they are capped at about just over £200. I can afford £400, but do I want to?
But you will have to, or you would have to drastically change your
I would have
lifestyle.
to at the end of the day, but how many people are struggling to pay even 200 because they don't have the salary? And this is the issue that we are facing here in Western countries. We have, for the last 30 years, gone on a trajectory of moving our economy from manufacturing to service like this, without properly funding education, without proper education in that education system to appreciate people of the situation. This is what you are not going to do with your life. And now it's coming back to bite us on another level, because we have cooperated with people that don't have our best interest at heart, naturally.
They also don't share our values, our lifestyle.
Yeah.
And we're funding them. We're funding people who actively say, we don't like you, screw you, but we'll take your money.
And well, it is becoming more and more obvious now, because there is, well, let me put it that way. Another smart thing Tim Pool said about half a year ago. And he was talking about the aftermath of the COVID pandemic. And one of his co-hosts said, well, look at it from this point of view. The majority of pandemics resulted in radical social change in the aftermath, massive protests, coups, and whatnot. Yeah. And where have the protests started? You won't guess it.
Tell us.
Well, there is basically no day right now where there is not a riot or police cars overturned in China. You wouldn't believe it. And my question is not why is it happening? At some point, if you have the boot on your neck all day long for a prolonged period of time, you will be very obedient. But the moment that boot comes off, or the moment you realize the consequences of rebellion are the same, essentially the same as continuing to living under that boot, you have nothing to lose. And I'm just raising the question, why do we now start seeing that kind of stuff? Because we haven't seen this kind of stuff. Why are there now people in mainland China that take screenshots of the dastardly and racist side of the Chinese internet and are sharing it on Western social media. Why is there? Well, first of all, you can question why is the Chinese government on Western social media while the Chinese populace at large is not allowed to. There's only two ways you are on, if you are Chinese in China, there's only two ways that you are on Western social media.
VPN?
No. Yes, VPN, obviously. But there's two ways you can do that. Number one, you have a government permission. Number two, you're doing it illegally. You only get a government permission if you are posting what the Chinese government wants everybody else to see. Those are the two situations that you are under. So, and I think it was about a month ago, there was this massive influx on Facebook of Chinese propagandists. And even when you don't join the debate, you can see these guys are coming, or these commentators, trolls, whatever you want to call them. The official term is Wu Mao. They come, they talk bullshit, they get their ass handed to them, they come back for more until they had enough. When they can't really counter it anymore, the argument from their side is you're being paid by the CIA, you want to keep China down. And well, for me, it's one of the comments I made. Well, you are no longer a Wu Mao, you're no longer getting 50 cents. The pay cut was down to 38, right? And it ties in with the news that has come out of China that government employees had their salaries cut because of their economic problems. They have the same economic problems and worse than what we do. And
going they're not 30 trillion in debt.
They have more debt than the US. So that's essentially it. And their economic model of producing stuff for the Western world has collapsed. I don't know. I don't think it was you, but I spoke to someone a couple of days ago or a couple of weeks ago, and I know someone who works in one of the largest apparel producers in China. They produce for different labels, for different Western labels. And the person said, there are no orders.
Wow.
And there are no orders for over a year.
I'm guessing that's information that's not supposed to be getting out. It's supposed to be behind the red curtain.
If you put that information out, even if you put out the information that the Chinese Office of Statistics in Beijing releases, you are racist, you are paid by the CEO, all these kind of things. Yeah. So I had one person challenging me, and I just sent them the link to the Chinese statistics. The next moment, the guy put me on ignore on Facebook. So literally, you have, and that is actually a problem that is compounding itself. You have a generation of decision makers in China that has been so taken in by this propaganda, they believe it, and they make decisions based on that propaganda, which just makes the situation worse. So, no, but the thing is, after this whole rant, is my question is, why do we see this stuff right now? For the last 6 months, we have been seeing more and more things that are not good, and not only by private citizens. There are leaks right next to Chairman Xi Jinping. Why is that happening? So, I mean, if there was a leak in the US government, in a government department, say the State Department or whatever, that leak would be found and plugged. Why can't the Chinese government find their leaks?
I don't know. Why can't they build a decent engine for their jet planes? They got problems.
Well, this is if you're mentioning jet engines, same story in Russia. Why? And the reason is the same. The reason is the same. The governance system, it's the same governance system, essentially. It has different flavors. It is not as bad as North Korea, one would think, but the result is the same. You are completely destroying any kind of independent thought. If you do not have the ability, or if you punish when people start asking simple questions like, well, why don't we do this? Why do we do that? Yeah. And this is essentially the staple what Western and American society is about. Why? And it has its excesses, especially in the States. Yeah. But look at it from this point of view. If the excesses in the States are on one side of the spectrum, and the complete absence of the why question or questioning behavior is absent in countries like China, North Korea, and whatnot, you see the development. There is, I said this before, the society is very uniform in China, which has its positives. But are these positives really worth the negatives? And my opinion, strictly no. I can see things are happening, and just use this. We have this one economic model in China. We produce stuff for the West. Now the West is not buying from us. You can call me racist. You can call me paid by the CIA. I'm still not buying from you, and that is a you problem. It is not a me problem, because I can buy from India. And another month or two ago, when this whole thing about renewed lockdowns in China started, my wife actually looked at the stuff we are buying, made in Bangladesh, made in India, made here, made there, no made in China. And really,
it's just moving around.
We'll look at it from another thing, like being in Edinburgh with 4 universities. The city is full of Chinese students, their parents, and I have seen grandparents. So my question, 2 questions for you is, if there is no COVID and it's just Western propaganda, why is everybody telling me about lockdowns in China? Why are so many Chinese coming to the West, to the UK and to the US as well? It will be the same on an American campus. Why are they bringing their parents and their grandparents? If what we are is so bad, why are, I think it's 70,000 or 75,000 individuals from China claiming asylum in the States in 2020? Why?
Well, I think you answered your own question. It sounded a bit rhetorical, because obviously it ain't that great.
And this is why I'm thinking, and I think that's going to be my closing argument here, is with all the stuff you and I, well,
if we're so bad, why are you coming here?
That's the question. And with all the stuff, not you and I, but general society here in Europe, with you in the States, what we are whinging about is a situation that at least 70,000 Chinese are longing for in 2020. Yeah, it's going to be more now. It's definitely going to be more now.
They want freedom.
Well, in a way, yes. Maybe not in the American way, but the point I'm trying to make is, we are complaining at a very high level, or what my daughter used to say, first world problems. And it's not even a first world problem. It's worse than that. Yeah, it's worse than that. And I think we have the opportunity that, starting from people that, I mean, you and I, we can afford this bullshit. Yeah, we have the money, we have the brains. It is not going to affect us. But
Well, they say more money, more problems. I say when you have more money, you have more problems. That's not true. When you have money, you can afford to have more problems, because when you don't have any money, that's the only problem you can focus on.
I think that is a great analogy. And what I was looking at is our philosophical development of Western society has stopped in the 90s. Yeah, there were some great inventions, some great advancements, but as society, we have not really moved forward. And I think this post-pandemic crisis, or this crisis of culture, if you want to, hopefully results in a new renaissance, new enlightenment, and we are moving our society forward with whoever wants to join us. But
we
if
can
you
only
don't
hope.
Join us, stay away from us.
Well said. I think that's about as good a place as any for this week.
I agree.
Roland and Rich's review.
And we are going to talk about a lot of more stuff carrying on from this next week.
He's Roland. I'm Rish.
That's my Rish. See you.